Serious students who have dated their teachers. What's your story? I dated a law professor during the summer break after my first year. She was the spitting image of Lilith Sternin from Cheers in looks, dress, and mannerisms. She had 20 years on me and was not someone I would have considered attractive at that stage of my life. It would be safe to say she was not well liked by most students. She had just gone through a very brutal and very public divorce. As I was walking out of class, she was standing at the lectern with a 1,000-yard stare and looking utterly dejected. I talked her into hitting the bar with some other students and a couple of professors. She got loose, I got loose, and we spent the next 3 months tooling around and ducking like bunnies. I blew off a summer internship to go screw around, which is probably why I ended up being a career public attorney, or not. Looking back, it was one of the happiest and most satisfying parts of my life. We broke it off amicably and remained friends right up until the time she succumbed to terminal illness a few years ago. I married my college professor. We've been together almost 20 years. I was over 21 and he was not yet 30. It was an independent study type course my last semester. I had to hint to him that I was interested. We went on a date and the rest is history. Not a scandal or big deal. I turned 18 my senior year. My German teacher and I were always flirty before that though. He was married my junior year, but divorced by my senior year. I slept with him 3 times. Found out I had chlamydia. Confronted him about it. He ducked. I knew about it. I got mine all cleared up and now he's married to some chick. Probably still with chlamydia and teaching English over in eBay. Had a huge crush on my high school gym teacher. Few years after graduation, Facebook came out and I looked him up. Still super hot. We met up for drinks. Then a week later he invited me to his place for dinner. It was a one-time thing. It was ducking awesome. Although now almost 10 years later he'll still text me thirsty as all hell. No regrets. I dated a tar when I was in college. It really wasn't too big a deal. She didn't grade the final paper, and most of the test quizzes were multiple choice or fill in the blank, so there wasn't really any way for her to show me preferential treatment. Just sat and listened to her read through the prof's PowerPoint slides and answer questions. We didn't tell the prof or anyone in the class, but we weren't exactly secretive either. I doubt anyone would have cared. It didn't really have a hot for teacher vibe, but the first few weeks were kind of fun, stealing glances and such. My story is a little bit different from the ones I've read here. I entered one of Brazil's most prestigious law schools when I was 18. On my first party, fresh out of high school, I met this beautiful girl who was 23, and on her last semester, we hooked up a few times but nothing too much. A couple of weeks later I drunkenly hooked up with a classmate and ended up dating her for 4 years. Fast forward to my final year, and who is the professor? The same girl I had hooked up with when I got into uni. She had graduated, gotten her LLM, and was finishing up her PhD thesis. A couple of weeks after classes had restarted, I broke up with my girlfriend and went on a night out with my high school friends, so no one from uni was there with me. It was carnival, so 5 days of parties. We hooked up again, and again, and again. We ended up kissing only each other during carnival. Just to specify why this point is so important, all my friends kissed like 20 to 30 girls each. 1 week later I had classes with her. It was awesome. Everyone joked us because of our previous relationship, not having any idea that we were seeing each other again. That was in 2009. 8 years later, we are still stupidly in love with each other, with 2 boys, 3 and 1. And a girl on the way. I graduated with honors, got a master's degree, and am now studying to get my PhD. Sorry for my English, since it is not my native language. TL. Doctor, hooked up with a senior as a freshman. She graduated and became my professor. We hooked up again and got married. I slept with my student once. I was her tar for organic chemistry. She was 21, and I was 23. The 6 was stellar, and I told the professor of the lab that I couldn't be responsible for grading her paper. He gave me a wink and told me that's how he met his husband. We broke up at the end of the course, but I'll always remember her as the girl who ended my slump. One of my classmates started dating a professor and he eventually got her pregnant. She graduated before revealing their relationship and marrying him, but everyone knows it started during school. I might add, this isn't the first student the professor has ducked. My husband was my senior English teacher. He was young and cute, and I had a crush on him, obviously. He came to my high school grad party and gave me a card with a nice note saying that maybe we could get together for lunch before I left for college. We did. That was 16 years ago, so obviously the rest is history. I dated my college professor in my last few weeks of the final semester. She was extremely timid and shy, yet strangely attractive. I decided to ask her out after class one day to see what she would say. She told me it's an inappropriate thing to ask a teacher in school and that she would see me next week. She emailed me later that evening from her personal email saying that she couldn't answer me properly at the time, but that she was down to go on a date. We went on a few dates, dinner, drinks, etc. However, it did not last long as we were too incompatible on a personal level. Opposite ends of the personality spectrum, I guess. I broke it off after 6 to 7 weeks, and she didn't take it well. Luckily for me, I never saw her again, or had to have a piece of work graded by her. Although the way it ended did stop me from returning to the school to give a presentation about my dissertation to one of the classes. Definitely did not want to risk that extremely awkward situation. I dated my HS teacher. I turned 18 senior year. I audited her class because the first grading period I got a B and didn't want to bring my GPA down. I would do the work in her class, then do homework for other classes. After a while, I would just talk to her after I finished the work. After a while, she invited me over for dinner. The second time I went to her house, it was on. We dated in secret the rest of the year. It was a pretty awesome education. Had an emotional affair all through senior year of prep boarding school with my beautiful English teacher. She was 9 years older, petite, delicate, long straight black hair, pale translucent skin. She was lonely and felt vulnerable at the mostly male school. I was obsessed with her, and it turned out the feeling was mutual, but we kept the physical dimension at bay until graduation night, when she pulled me out of a party and into the darkness outside and said she couldn't stop wondering what it would be like to kiss me. Off we went. I cannot tell you how explosive it was to finally go at it with an ideal figure you have been fantasizing about forever, but mostly experienced in a professional distant capacity. When the clothes came off, it was just transcendent. We dated for 2 years. She would drive up to see me in college on the weekends, and we would check into a $14 motel room and spend hours just undressing each other. Unbelievable sex. And at that age I was in unlimited insatiable mode all the time. It wound down because she was very wrapped up in an obscure academic career in the lives and fates of fringe 18th century poets, and pretty much expected me to share her sensibilities. And it turned out she had a younger sister with Downs who would require lifetime care, and she was quietly making plans for her and me, as a team, to shoulder the burden. I was 19. We parted as friends, more or less, but did not stay in touch. I know she went on to be a lit professor at a prestigious university, married another academic, and had a couple of very highfalutin books published. Student-teacher sixes always characterize these days as damaging and borderline assault, abusive to the student, etc. But I can tell you this relationship was one of the best things that ever happened to me, in bed or out. I was unbelievably lucky. My friend wouldn't date her teacher. He was married. Even though his wife was down with it, my friend constantly had to turn him down. They became friends, and she went to hang out with him and his wife one night. After wondering, she noticed that she was one-eye drunker than she should be. She left immediately and came home to talk to me, her housemate. My ex had been roofied 2 times in a tour, so my experience told me that she was probably dosed with something, and that it was very good that she left at the first sign of trouble. Girls, I feel sorry for you, having to put up with this kind of crap. What's worse is that his wife was in on it, helping him take advantage of a student. He now has a son. I really hope he does things right and teaches his son to be better than himself. Somehow. He was an intern teacher, last year of university. He was pretty much a teacher by then. He was 24, I was 17, last year of high school. We waited till summer to start hanging out, but we clearly already had a crush on each other in class. I thought I was mature at the time, but in retrospect I wasn't really. I looked up to him and was devastated when his views did not align with mine. Sex wasn't great because I did not know what I liked and did not want to talk about it. It was an okay relationship that lasted 2 years, but I always felt like I was not old enough for the relationship, for his friends, for his parents, etc. Then I was studying to become a teacher too, and we had a discussion about dating students that made me very uncomfortable. I went in a class, look at the kids that were 4 or 5 years younger than me, and decided it is very weird to fall for one. We split. He's still dating a girl like 10 years younger than him. I'm 25, and I think 19-year-old are very immature kids, and I would not want one as a partner. It was good while it lasts, but I'm still weirded out. Would not recommend. I dated one of my tars early in college. She was very pretty, and I thought I had no chance. During review sessions I would give her a hard time, and apparently she found it funny and charming. Who knew? Because she asked me out as the semester wound down. She helped me on my final paper a little, but she also took my virginity, so it was a nice end to the semester for that class. I'm dating my self-defense instructor. I'm in my mid-20s. He's in his early 30s, so the age difference is bigger than I'm used to, but we are still well within the age 2+7 rule. Whenever I take one-on-one classes with someone within like a 20-year age gap, there's like a 50% chance I'll get a crush on them, regardless of sex. It's kind of pathetic. I'm so used to it at this point. Usually I just ignore it. I guess there's something really hot about seeing someone who's really talented at something I wish I was better at. I dated my high school English professor. There was a 15-year difference. It was after I graduated. Before I graduated, we had some sort of relationship. We never talked about inappropriate things, but I suppose the fact that we spoke at all would be considered inappropriate. The fact is, I struggled with depression my sophomore year, and he was the only one to recognize it and ask me if I was okay. He was honestly my best friend for several years, and we chatted constantly. A couple of weeks after I graduated, we took a trip a couple of hours away. I think I kinda thought there would be flirting involved, but I never thought it would turn out the way it did. We actually had a really great day, going to parks and comic stores and dinner. After dinner, we got ice cream and sat down. He rubbed my shoulders and kissed my head, and I remember him saying, "I think we both know how this is going to end up if we hang out more." He left for a trip to London a couple of days afterwards. When he came back, we saw each other again and started sleeping together. He would drive up to my college apartment almost every weekend to spend time with me. Eventually, things fell apart. After about a year, I needed more, and we both knew this was only temporary, despite us both expressing more than sexual feelings for one another. Things soured once my new boyfriend, now an ex, couldn't deal with us still talking because we were still best friends, and threatened him without me knowing. We didn't talk for a couple of years. My husband now knows and doesn't particularly care about me speaking with him, but now he's also about to get married, and I guess his fiancée would have a problem. I guess that's understandable. We saw each other this weekend. We were at the same concert. We briefly made eye contact and waved. It made me feel really sad. Although I'm completely and 100% in love with and dedicated to my husband, I still mourn losing a friend who got me through so much. Although the dating was really fun, I knew it would end. Back then, I just never thought that our friendship would cease. In 11th grade, my math teacher and I were madly in love. She was 24 and I was 17, and one day she told me to stay after class when normally I would go to lunch. Once we were alone, she told me she had dreamed about me the night before and asked if I was serious with my girlfriend. One thing led to another, and I fell deeply in love with her. One day her husband showed up to class to drop off some keys to her, and I was so scared. This was in 1997, so I didn't have a cell phone, but just a pager. She would send me encoded messages. The number 17 meant she was thinking about something we had done. 10 meant she missed me. 314 meant to go to her classroom. The doors all had glass windows on them, but hers was covered in math facts, so the room had privacy. It was a very good year. Currently dating my former high school chemistry teacher, if that counts. He was very popular amongst students then, and still is now, even after he quit last year. It's only an 8-year difference and we never really talked when I had his classes first year teaching. Long story short, teachers tend to be good at putting up a front in regards to their anxiety and depression.